Can everyone take their seats, please? Exactly. Exactly. Can we have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Baxter. Here. Commissioner Flores. Present. Mayor Marino.
Here.
Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Commissioner Sachs. Here. Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward. Here. Thank you.
If you could please stand, Commissioner Weiss is going to lead us in the prayer and the pledge.
Father, guide us in our duties we are about to perform. Give us wisdom to make the best decisions for all our citizens. Help us to remember that no problem is too small to escape concern and perplexity too great to resist solution. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
None, Mayor.
May I get a motion to adopt? Second. I have a motion from Commissioner Weiss, a second from Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor, all opposed. See that the motion carries 6-0. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go to the regular agenda portion of today. And the first item on our regular agenda is I need a motion to receive and file the warrant list. So moved. Second. I have a motion from Commissioner Flores, a second from the Vice Mayor. All in favor, all opposed. See that motion carries 7-0. The second item on our regular agenda is the state legislative agenda. That's
Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Mayor, we had a bit of a misunderstanding in the beginning. I have asked property appraiser Dorothy Jacks. She's in attendance this morning. She's here to answer some questions on the home buyer workshop. And we had asked about reordering because she was here. And I think we had a miscommunication on which item she was here to speak on.
okay. That if,
Could I request a reorder to have that first since she's here?
Motion?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you.
so we have a motion and a second to reorder the agenda. We're going to take the, oh, wait a second. All in favor? All opposed? See, that motion carries 7-0. Commissioner Powell, you had a question?
Thank you for that. And this can be answered when the Legislative Affairs team sits down. I know that we had hired new lobbyists, and I want to see if those lobbyists were here during the legislative presentation, or if we would meet them at some other time.
So we'll revisit that when we get there.
We can revisit that when we get there.
Perfect, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, so we're going to take workshop session 4A, the Home Buyer Assistance Program.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Abruzzo. I'm Tammy Fields, Deputy County Administrator. Also at the table is Carlos Serrano, Deputy Director of Housing and Economic Development, and Jonathan Brown, Director of Housing and Economic Development, and acknowledge Howard Falcon from the County Attorney's Office. We're here today at the direction of the board. We, on August 28th, the board, when we were discussing in lieu fees, directed that we look at other opportunities for home ownership, and I know that's a priority for many members of the board. Following that, at the September 30th workshop, Commissioner Woodward gave direction, and the board supported the direction for us to look at a home buyer match program. And I know that there are some people in the audience, Commissioner Woodward, if you wanted to acknowledge who was in attendance.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned, our property appraiser, Dorothy Jacks, is here. We also have Michelle Jacobs, Fab Brumley, and Kevin Rattery here. I mentioned them because I've had conversations with different industry people trying to kind of pick this apart. This came because I've heard from members of this board multiple times we need to work on having more home ownership opportunities and not just rentals, which has kind of been a lot of what we've ended up with the bond program. And my initial conversations were, can we use any of the bond money for something like this? I'm sure they'll answer that is not an option. However, the in lieu fees are an option, and there's potentially other programs too that we could tap into for this. And I've also heard from this board not having opportunities for this creating generational wealth, not having the ability to have equity in the home go with the homeowner, and then also having entry levels that make sense. I also did, just for my own benefit, because I'm on CareerSource, I did a survey in my district asking questions about young professionals' workforce and why are they leaving, where are they going, and I got a lot of responses about home ownership being what they want. They want to have that entry-level home. And so that's where this idea came from. Thank you to staff and the people that I've mentioned in the audience for having these conversations, creating something that it's a match, so we have people bringing skin in the game, and we will double theirs. There's only, I think, 6 slides in the program, and several of these are going to have what I'm trying to propose with staff, and questions for this board to answer, decisions to be made. But the biggest part of this, we're not solidifying this today, it's to get a lot of feedback so they can go back to work and then bring us something, a program at a future meeting that will be agended. But we do have people here in the audience, and I have Dorothy Jacks here because I wanted to tie it to Homestead, and she has some good insight for us on how we can make that a bigger part of this program. So with that, staff, please continue.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Brown to make the presentation.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Abruzzo. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today to share some of the conversations we've had with Commissioner Woodward, but some of you all, again, as it relates to home ownership opportunities. Just in general, wanted to bring back to your attention some of the conversations we've had at the August 28th workshop with regards to the workforce housing program, the in lieu fees. What you see here again is just basically what that program looks like. Developers have options in terms of the workforce housing program and meeting their workforce housing requirements. And the specific portion we're going to talk about today are the dollars that come back via the in lieu fee. It's a little different going forward, but this is what I want to talk about today and how we use those dollars. So one of the things that we would like for you to consider with regards to this is that, one, the in lieu fees are diminishing. Developers have other options, the exchange program being one of them, but we think that this particular program will be a great opportunity for us to increase the number of home ownership homeowners within the county. Again, just some history on what we've done with regards to workforce housing and what we have in the pipeline right now with our Boynton Beach CRA project in Pulte. Again, this here will look to increase home ownership opportunities for the county's workforce. And the thing we love about this is that this will allow us to leverage even better cash contributions from a buyer, and it's not necessarily the county putting in $100,000 or more to make home ownership a reality.
Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mayor. Need to retain sufficient homebuyer funding for current pipeline of 63 workforce housing program buyers and future demand. Are there 63 people currently in queue? What does that mean?
Yes, sir. So at this point, we're working with Pulte. They're partnership with the Boynton Beach CRA, and they're going to be bringing forward some units. This particular opportunity allowed us to partner not only with Pulte, Boynton Beach CRA, but the city of Boynton Beach. and we're going to assist those buyers. We also know that in addition to these 63 buyers, that through PZB, there are other developers that can come forward at any time. So today, we're going to recommend using 5 of approximately 18 million that's in the in lieu fees.
Okay, and those are currently in queue?
Yes, sir.
63. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Carlos?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So as to the home buyer match pilot program that's proposed, the Department of Housing and Economic Development would offer this assistance to prospective buyers on a first-come, first-eligible, first-served basis. We were asking the board to allow us to allocate $5 million of the in lieu fees to this use. The funds would actually be used to provide a dollar-for-dollar match to the home buyer's cash contribution to a home purchase, up to a maximum amount of $50,000 per buyer. The funds would go towards down payment, closing costs, or points buy down, closing fees. As for eligibility, eligible homes would be single-family detached homes, townhomes, or condominiums, of course, located exclusively within Palm Beach County. It would be required that the buyer apply for a homestead exemption within 1 year of the purchase. The proposed income range that would be served would be those between 80 and 140% of area median income. These are currently, for a household of 4 persons, incomes between $93,000 and $156,000. Buyers would need to be either a current Palm Beach County resident or currently employed in Palm Beach County, and they'd be required to complete a home buyer education course prior to the purchase. As for the terms of the funding, it would be provided as a loan secured by a second mortgage. The principal amount of the loan would be forgiven after a term of 15 years. If the buyer, or the owner, I should say, wanted to sell within that 15-year term, they would have the option of either repaying the principal amount of the loan to the county or transferring the county's lien on the property to their next homesteaded property located within Palm Beach County. And the program would not place any restrictions on the resale price of that home or any equity proceeds that went to the buyer.
So before you continue, I have 2 lights on. Commissioner Flores? Okay, Commissioner Sacks? Okay. Thank you.
We see the benefits of the program. It contributes to upward economic mobility of the participants. It taps into the existing housing market inventory here in the county and promotes fluidity in the market. It doesn't generate additional burden on infrastructure as new housing construction would, and it allows the beneficiaries geographic mobility within the county.
Okay. Commissioner Flores?
Good morning.
Morning.
Excuse me. We currently have a program that we're offering up to $100,000 for home buyers, correct?
Yes, sir. We have our SHIP and our home, first-time home buyer programs.
And how much money do we have allocated to that program?
So with home program, we're usually doing about 30 applicants, so roughly about 1 million, a little over 1 million. And again, when I say 30, we take the first 30 that come in, but then we only approve the number based on what's available. And then in the SHIP program, it varies, but typically between $1.5 million and $2 million is what we usually recommend for that program. One of the things to note with those particular programs, especially with the SHIP program, similar to what we're recommending here, it's first come, first served. They get a chance to purchase again anywhere throughout the county. As the same thing with the home program. With the home program, though, we don't typically allow them to purchase within entitlement cities that receive their own federal allocation of home funds.
So the difference between those programs and this program is that those programs don't necessarily need a match.
Well, they still have to bring, depending on where you are in terms of your income, we still require them to bring at least 3.5% of the cost to the table. So they'll have some sort of contribution. Whereas with this particular program, the buyers are going to be much more invested in the purchase in terms of their contributions.
In those programs, do you still have that earmark of 15 years?
In the workforce housing program, it's a 15-year recurring, but in SHIP and home, it's a 30-year lien. And in SHIP and home, when you sell the home, you have to sell it to someone that meets the income eligibility requirement, and or you're going to have to repay all of the dollars back to the county.
Wow, 30 years, really?
Yes, sir.
Can we change that if we wanted to?
If the board wanted to change that, yes, sir.
Okay. That might be something that we might revisit. Regarding this particular program, I didn't hear you say first-time home buyer, or meaning not having another home already purchased. I think what my main concern is making sure that we don't have people that want to flip the properties. So this is truly a first-time, maybe not a first-time home buyer, I think that's the wrong word, but meaning they don't currently own a home and they're trying to build equity in a home. So is that part of this program?
That's part of this program, similar to what we do in the workforce housing program. While we don't limit it to first-time home buyers, we limit it to eligible home buyers, and you cannot close on any of our programs while you're an owner of another home. We'll let you go through the process, but then there has to be a closing, which is what we would do here. We would ensure that no one owns an additional home by the time they close on this program.
And are we working with any lenders that maybe for people that don't have perfect credit, that they can still be able to come into one of these type of assistance and move into a home? Because I know a lot of the lenders, they have criteria, and they usually lend to people with good credit. But we've all made mistakes, and maybe not everybody's credit out there is perfect. Are we looking for any lenders that are looking for those people that maybe don't have that perfect credit?
Great question, Commissioner. So we don't typically dictate to the lenders in terms of what their underwriting and credit score requirements. One of the challenges is lenders who will allow those with less than whatever the required credit score is, will charge higher interest rates, would then make the project or the buyer could put them in some issues. So what we typically do is have those individuals work with the home buyer counselors, work with the credit counselors, get their credit to a place to where they can purchase a home and be affordable and not be tempted to pay higher interest rates, higher monthly payments, which is counter to what the board really wants to see in terms of affordability.
Okay. I would love for us to find a good partner to work in addition to this program to get people that don't have perfect credit to be able to qualify for these programs moving forward. I think it's a great project. Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you so much. And as far as my colleagues are concerned, I also echo what Commissioner Flores said about getting one or maybe 2 or 3 lenders to assist in this. Have we looked at other counties, or did we make this up all by ourselves?
We have had conversations with commissioners. We've heard the board with regards to the need for home ownership, and we've evaluated the programs that the county has administered. We have had conversations with other counties as we meet with our other housing municipal partners throughout the state. So we've had conversations, and we've kind of taken what we believe are going to be best practices or what would make this program effective.
What other county has a similar program and or a program that we borrowed ideas from?
So great question, Commissioner. I would say when you're looking at our SHIP program and our home program, most every other county and city have those programs. This is innovative. This is something new. This is a new tool that we're adding to the toolbox. This isn't something that we've heard other counties or other cities institute.
So other counties and municipalities have done it, but this is new?
This
So I don't
partic-
understand.
This particular program is new. They're using typically state funds or federal funds, as we already do within our program.
And we are using HUD money and county money.
In this particular program, it would be strictly the in lieu fees that the county receives when a developer buys their way out of their workforce housing requirements.
So the only county money that is being used for this program would be that paid by developers in lieu of having workforce or affordable housing in that area.
Yes, ma'am.
And have we already made that rule that they are not, that they must pay and not have the other option of putting in workforce or affordable housing at another location?
I don't believe the board has made a decision on that yet, although there have been conversations.
What is your recommendation, sir?
With regards to whether or not there should be an in lieu fee or a buyout?
Whether or not the board should make a rule with regard to no substitutions, but they have to have a payout.
I would say, Commissioner, that the board, and I've heard a number of you share and state that you would rather have units created. And so.
What is your recommendation as director of this program?
We're looking for housing units to be created, whether it's that way or this way.
So you don't have a recommendation?
As long as we're creating the housing units that the board has asked for, short of the board establishing policy, we want to come up with an alternative. And so this is an alternative that we can bring because the board has an established policy. Either way, it accomplishes what you want, which is new housing units or creation of new workforce units for eligible buyers.
Commissioner Sachs, I think from the standpoint of staff, our recommendation is that we have multiple tools in the toolbox in order to achieve workforce and affordable housing.
What is, yeah, Dr. Field, Tammy, what is the difference between, I mean, how much money do we have right now from developers putting money into the county rather than using that option of
Currently,
having?
we have about
just wait, hold on, I know you're a lawyer. Of putting other affordable and workforce housing in other areas.
Currently, we have approximately 18 million.
18 million in this fund.
In this fund. And we're
Okay, and up
recommending
to
5
now,
million.
what have we done with the 18 million? If anything, maybe it's in there collecting interest.
Commissioners, so far, we have been able to create 246 new home buyers through the workforce housing program using those in lieu fees.
Okay, very good. So this is county money, and yet this program would be open, is a suggestion that you have, would be open to folks who do not live or pay taxes in Palm Beach County. Is that what I'm understanding, Mr. Brown? That's your suggestion?
Yes, ma'am. We're suggesting on the fourth bullet, home buyers must either be a current
No, I
resident
can read very
or
well, but I'm
employee.
asking you, sir. You're the director of the program. So somebody could live in another county, work for a company here. I mean, I've already asked the question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't need to do it
And they could
again.
become new residents yes, ma'am, because as a result of this program, yes, ma'am.
But they could be qualified to be part of this program using Palm Beach County money, not having, I don't need to ask, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's eligible for people who are not Palm Beach County residents?
Yes, ma'am. As long as they're going to purchase a home within Palm Beach County, then they would be eligible based on what we're proposing.
Okay. And then they would have to become a resident
Yes,
of
ma'am.
Palm Beach County?
And the property would need to be homesteaded.
Okay. And so how much money would we be using on this? Maybe I should look to you, Tammy. How much money, county money, will we be using to start this program out?
The suggestion is that we would use $5 million as the starting point for a pilot program.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Woodward, for bringing this up. Thank you all for putting this together. I have a couple questions. In regards to the closing, what would be the time frame that if they are selected, how long will they have to close?
Sure. The closing would typically be done within the time frame allowed by the purchase contract. Typically, you're looking at a 60-day period to close, 45, 60 days.
I guess I'm more, maybe I'll rephrase the question. So is there a time period from when they are selected to when they get qualified for their, whatever mortgage they're going to go after, and then have a contract on a property and close that out before we say, hey, they're not getting it done, we want to go to another person? That's my question.
Understood. And yes, we certainly would need to set some reasonable time limit for that approved buyer to go out and secure a contract on a home and close. We wouldn't just want to hold those matching funds for that particular buyer, you know, for a protracted period of time if they weren't taking any action to actually acquire the homes.
And Commissioner, to piggyback on Carlos, so within our Ship and Home program, we give buyers 6 months from the time that they approve to find and purchase a home, and then we can extend it for another 6 months. In the workforce housing programs, they're income certified for 2 years, and within 2 years, they have to find to purchase a home.
I understand what you're saying. That seems like an awful long time to encumber funds for. If somebody is serious about getting this done, so I think we need to try and shorten that time frame into something. I think 6 months would be the absolute max that I would be comfortable with. And I think it also begs to look at the other program as well, rather than continuing to allow money to be tied up. The other thing I have, or I think we need to improve on, is the process on how we make these awards. I think the idea of first in and then we close, that doesn't seem fair to me. What I would like us to consider doing is to open up a window, let's say it's, I don't know, a week or 10 days or something for people to apply. Then you can use some kind of a lottery system, random number generator to select, let's say in this case, you're gonna do 100, or maybe you'll start off with 50, I don't know. Whatever that number is, instead you'll then move on and say, okay, we're gonna, instead of 50, we're gonna pull 75, we'll pull 75 numbers. Those people then are the ones that'll get vetted to ensure that they're qualified. And then from there, then the first 50 numbers will then get the opportunity to try and close it out. And if they can't, then you'll drop down to somebody else. Because first in, that window opens for, I don't know, an hour if somebody is aware. And they have to be aware at exactly what time that window is going to open. And it just seems inherently unfair to people, because this is public money and should try and cast, obviously it's limited, but to cast as wide a net in terms of trying to allow people to participate in it. And I think the public would actually appreciate that, because one of the complaints I get is that it's just unfair that people are basically winning lotteries, having a lottery ticket and having that prize. And not everybody else gets as equal of a chance to try and participate. So I think a more inclusionary program would be better. I like this. I like the idea that they could potentially sell their property and then move to maybe even a better property. I like the way you guys thought that out. I think that's really great. I like that it's a loan to begin with. I would like to have it repaid, because I think it would then benefit if there's a way to maybe think about, could we do it at a 0 interest or do a 5-year no amortization, no payments, and something like that, and so that they can get in there, and then hopefully maybe there's a way to get some of this money back to recycle it through to help other buyers. Those are things that I've been thinking about for this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for putting this together. And thank you, Commissioner Woodward, for bringing this forward. I absolutely agree. We should be working towards more home ownership, and sounds like a great program that we're starting to discuss. I do share similar concerns as Commissioner Flores about the 30-year for the SHIP funds, I believe it was. We were talking about that is extensive. This program in itself is even at 15 years. I have said for a long time, that's a long time. And if we're trying to get people a head start, I would like to see that reduced. I don't know what that number is, but I really would like to see incentivization of home ownership. And again, I haven't really settled on that time frame. I'll wait to hear from some of my fellow commissioners. Once this is approved for residents, is it just in place so that should they find a home, we can work quickly?
It would be in place, Commissioner. We could, as we've done, as Commissioner Weiss, we could open up a window of time for individuals to apply, so that way they will know if they have dollars from the county, because they're going to need that when they go secure their loan. So we may need to open up some sort of process so at least people will understand what their buying power is.
Right, and so that we're providing them a letter to give to the bank to say these dollars are essentially yours should this go through.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, that's great. I don't mind the 6-month window, but I would like to add to that because I think that was a great idea, Commissioner Weiss, so these dollars aren't tied up. But I would like a simpler extension process if we go with 6 months. So say that person, it took them 5 months to buy a home and their closing date isn't prior to that 6-month period. I don't want them losing out on the ability. So having a much simpler, less in-depth process to extend that time frame. So that way we know they're still interested in using the dollars. But also, having a window that we can cut it off and put those dollars back in a pot for somebody else to use.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that would be ideal.
Yes,
Commissioner Weiss, do you?
I don't disagree, but I think that I like the idea of making it simple, but I don't want it to be never-ending, ongoing, and that, if you can't, and obviously the market is going to dictate how difficult it is to find property.
So maybe up to 6 months of extensions, but that's it? So it'd be a total of 1 year?
I wouldn't give them, I would maybe give them another 90 days if they can't. You can close a property in everything closes within 90 days.
Okay, so then there's my next question. If they start the process prior to that 6 months, where's the deadline would have to be as long as that deadline only occurs from the state, the date of the start of their process then?
Typically, I'm sorry, Tammy, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say, I think the simple way of doing that is if they had a contract in place before the expiration of the 6 months, and we saw what the date is of the contract. Of course, not that it would exceed the 90 days or the other 6 months, but as long as there was a contract and a loan commitment in place, that would be the easy way of approving an extension if it was after the time period of the 6 months, because sometimes things just happen in the closing. A storm comes through and everything gets extended.
So I agree. I love the idea of having it from, as long as they've started that contract and then giving them at most up to a 90-day extension.
Okay.
I guess what I keep circling back to is the timing. 15 years just being so long, and I'll wait to hear again, but I think I'm leaning more towards like a 10-year. There was a comment by Commissioner Weiss that I was curious about. If they did a 5-year no payment, would you think that would be at the beginning of the loan to give them time to adjust, and then they would have to start paying after that?
If that was, yeah.
So just a thought on that, Commissioner, and I know we have some lenders in the room. If we're going to require payment, that's going to be factored into their debt-to-income ratios up front, even if we say payment begins in 3 years, 5 years. And so that may impact their front-end ratio and their ability to qualify. if we're going to institute a monthly payment. Just a thought, something for you to consider.
What are we suggesting currently?
Right now, it would work as a forgivable loan, in that there will be zero interest, zero payments. You live in the home for whatever number of years the board decides, then it's forgiven. Or if you're going to move to a new home in Palm Beach County, we'll allow you to transfer that lien to go to that new home with you. At the end of the 15 years, it would be forgiven.
I do like those options better because I don't want to, I don't want to prevent them from being able to get a home because of affordability. We're trying to make it more affordable and promote home ownership. So I think I like those options better.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Woodward.
Right, just to echo into that, because we did have some of this discussion with the forgivable part, and you pretty much nailed it. As long as they sell and stay in Palm Beach County, I wanted to find a way for that money to continue and be an additional down payment on the new property, so that you're having some upward, and not require repayment unless, if they move to New Jersey, pay it back upon sale. And that was what I had the meeting with the bank asking, is there a way when they sell the house and they're gonna move out of state or move to some other place, then that money needs to stay in Palm Beach County. As long as they stay homesteaded here, I wanted to allow the money to follow them and continue moving up into a, bigger, better property as they see fit. And then at 15 years, and that's why if I could have Ms. Jacks just to come up, because the homestead part kind of became key on this. And we had discussions on even being able to give her office a list every year of these properties that she could check homestead. So if you could just, what we spoke about.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you again for allowing me to go early. Yeah, when Commissioner Woodard and I talked briefly about this, the importance of homestead, of course, these folks will be permanent Florida residents who have qualified. This is their primary home. It's not going to be a rental. It's not going to be a flipper. It's going to be their primary home, just like we all have a homestead, if you require a homestead as part of the application process. Now, under Florida law, homesteads are renewed automatically annually. We can build into this program where, or the county, you can choose to build into this program where they would fill out a short application every year showing that they still are Florida residents, or certainly we can verify that they still are Florida residents each year for you. We would just be provided with a list. We would run through and make sure they all still meet the criteria. That continues to be their primary home. They have no other address where they're living, et cetera, et cetera. And that way you would assure that it is their homestead. And that way you are committed to Palm Beach County residents. I think that that's important in this. I'd also note that certainly the folks that qualify for this it's almost a lienable grant in a way, would pay property taxes just like we all do. Usually that is part of their mortgage payment. It'll be built into their mortgage payment, property tax and insurance. But the nice thing about this program is that they continue to accrue the appreciation in their property, which the programs that exist now, while they're wonderful, they are not able to accrue appreciation. And so that whole model of home ownership where you buy your first, nowadays maybe $300,000 home, and then as your family grows and expands, you're able to buy and your income increases, you're able to buy a $500,000 home, is allowed in this. You're able to do that while continuing to be a Palm Beach County resident, and you've almost been given a little boost by Palm Beach County to get that process started. And that's what I really liked about this idea. Again, the other programs are fantastic, but they do cause someone to not be able to benefit from the appreciation that's occurring in the home that they are in, whereas this program would allow that. Anything else for me? Yeah.
Commissioner Sachs, you have a question for Ms.?
Really impressed that you and Commissioner Woodward have discussed this together, because this is so essential. County staff, county commissioner, and a constitutional officer. So the guarantees there would be that they would stay, that they would be homesteaded, their property, no other property, and that they have to prove Florida, Palm Beach County residents, right? And that they would be gaining equity. Do you have any, I know Commissioner Flores brought up lenders, and I know I know we have lenders in the House. Do you have any suggestions as to whether we should use, I mean, who's going to do the paperwork on this? Who's going to do the finances on this? Do you have any suggestions, Ms. Jackson?
Well, presumably it'll be multi-part, that there will be a process with the county so that you qualify under the income thresholds in order to meet the county requirements for your part of the payment. And then there will be the lenders who effectively are just as any of us getting a mortgage, somebody you go to, you make your application, so forth and so on. They check that you're able to pay, your ability to pay through your income, et cetera.
Right.
But, so there would have to be multi-parts. I know that Mr. Brown would have that organized.
Excellent, excellent. So
And
that,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but presumably part of that would be they would apply for homestead exemption.
right.
During that initial
time.
sort of 6 months or whatever you decide, they
Right.
would apply for homestead exemption so that we could let the county know, yes, they qualify for homestead exemption.
Excellent. So then all of this, it wouldn't be just the county taking care of all of the paper on this. We'd also have lenders involved.
Yeah,
Excellent.
presumably there would be a part of the package would be the homestead application, just so that you're assured, okay, or else, because if they're not going to qualify for homestead, that's going to be a kind of out of the program. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for lending your office for this. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell, you've been patiently waiting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for recognizing me. Thank you, staff, for developing the program and the foresight to push forward with this. I do want to point out that the buyout for the Home Buyer Match Pilot Program, the buyout that we have, the cost of a buyout for the fee in lieu for developers is for, I had it somewhere, but for a single-family home, I think $192,000.
Page 2, Commissioner, of the presentation.
Here we go. So $146,000 for a single-family home, $122,307 per townhome, and then $91,730 for a multifamily unit. Those fees to buy out the purchase of a unit, just so we know, are way under what it would cost to construct. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, Commissioner, so those are the in lieu fees. The buyout is 80% of that amount.
I apologize.
Make sure I clarify though. So if the developer's going to pay the in lieu fee, that's what the county receives. If they're going to work with an exchange builder, that exchange builder's percent is 80% of that amount.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification, too. So the in lieu fee for per unit is much less than it costs to construct a unit. To play off of what Commissioner Weiss had indicated with regard to the amount of time to purchase a home, that's something that we should dig a little bit deeper into, because I do know that I've got friends who are realtors, and it is very difficult to find a home. Someone may not find a home within 6 months. And if they do, are we rushing people? We talk about being priced out of paradise, but are we rushing people into the first home they find because they want to make sure they can close, and then they have to live at least for 15 years in that, unless they transfer quickly, in a home that they hate? Because if you've purchased a home, many of us have purchased homes, I would venture to say that we didn't buy the first home we saw because we were rushed to do it. So I want to think about that. And then to the extension process, Commissioner Baxter, Vice Chairman Baxter indicated it should be an easier process. The extension of only 90 days, I think, is short-sighted. I think it should be, give people ample time to find something that's reasonable, that they like. We live in Palm Beach County. if you want a $300,000 home, as a property appraiser Dorothy Jacks just said, do a simple search, Realtor.com. Look at the $300,000 homes here in Palm Beach County. Look at where you're living. Look at the conditions. You can get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and some of those. And if you find a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, click on it, look on the inside, and see how much you're going to have to also get a construction loan to reconstruct the inside of the home. This program within the proposal indicates that single-family townhomes or condominiums would be priced no greater than the countywide median purchase price as provided by the Realtors Association. Is that still the case, or has that been?
Great question, Commissioner. That what you have is probably an earlier draft as we were trying to figure out how to develop and present a program to the Board of County Commissioners. So that was something we tossed around a few weeks ago. We didn't propose that as part of the program today.
Okay, that language is still online as of now, in terms of if I click the agenda that's on the website that's available to the public, that language is there. So if that's not our intent, then we should adjust that, because in terms of discussion, I wanted to discuss what's online, and that would currently be online, which would have brought me to the next point of what is the average price, if you did know the area average median purchase price for a single-family home here in Palm Beach County by the Realtors Association. Did we know that answer?
Yes. During the most recent month for which data is available is August 2025, and it was over 600,000.
600,000?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Single family for sale.
Thank you. And I found that answer too. It came up with the last quarter of 2024 for 615,000, which now brings me to my next question. Property appraiser Dorothy Jacks. And if I'm putting you on the spot, I apologize, and you can bring us the answer later. But in terms of taxes, property tax inclusive of, ad valorem and everything that goes into property taxes, what would be the average property tax for the purchase price of a $600,000 home?
So you can estimate around $10,000 for every $500,000 in taxable value. So if you have a $600,000 home and you take out the first and the second homestead, you're down to $550,000, so $10,000 to $11,000. Now, certainly, with the caps and with portability and all those other benefits, you've got a lot coming off of that. I will also caution that the Realtors' numbers are great. We use them, great data, but they are averages, not medians, and medians are often more meaningful. I'd also caution that they are single-family numbers. They don't include townhomes and condominiums, which are both more affordable than single-family homes. And I do think, I do want to note, we have a lot of inventory in this county of condominiums and townhomes, especially in excellent locations that are well-maintained, often very new communities. If I was an investor, I'd be investing in townhomes. I mean, they really are affordable, usually well-maintained, have lower HOA fees than even some single-family communities, and they can be an excellent starter home. So the numbers with townhomes are much closer to 300,000. I think they're even lower with condominiums, as far as medians, as far as sale price median values.
Thank you for that. Property appraiser Dorothy Jacks, with regard to townhomes, I see that townhomes, and the average shown here is $330,000, but you also indicated sometimes when you get a single family home, you may be able to get that home outside of a property that would be an HOA. Now, HOAs, of course, put us in a different playing field, because those are now either monthly assessments, or annual assessments, or a 6-month assessment that's on top of property taxes and insurance. So if a person was to get a $330,000 property, on average, the taxes would probably be around $8,000 if they do a homestead 7.5, six.
6 to 8, yep.
And then the average HOA fee in Palm Beach County inside of a townhome is around maybe what, $300 a month?
No, I think that's probably pushing the higher end of what it might be. I don't know. I don't want to answer that incorrectly, but I think that's probably high for a townhome.
Okay. So thank you for that. I think those are my questions with regard to what we're looking at in terms of affordability and the comprehensiveness of what's really included when a person is utilizing a program like this to purchase a home. If a person gets the average home, they're going to pay almost $1,000 a month in taxes alone over the lifetime of a year, and taxes will be able to go up 3% a year. So at some point, they're going to be paying $1,000 a month in taxes. On top of that, we have property insurance, which is, if you get a $600,000 home, you're probably paying about $10,000 a year in property insurance, anywhere between maybe $6,000 and $10,000. So you add that without even getting into the principal and interest of the loan that they would have to pay, they're already at $1,500. So I like the idea that Vice Mayor Baxter talked about in terms of maybe 30 years is a long time, but there can be an amortization rate where if you get the loan, it amortizes per year a certain amount of that, so that if they do the 15 years, they do the 30 years, great. It kind of amortizes. I know there's been reasons why that has not been looked at, and we should discuss that a little bit further. But my thought process as I try to wrap my head around this comprehensively is we're looking at a dollar for dollar match at $50,000, which for us sitting on the board sounds great, but really in all honesty, it's really not that much when you look at everything that a new home buyer has to take into consideration when trying to purchase a home. And then if we try to expedite and close that process and say you've got 6 months to purchase this home, then we're squeezing them even further. I like this idea. I like the concept. I like the fact that if they've purchased the home, they've got the $50,000 towards it. If they decide to upgrade and let's say they get a better job in Palm Beach County and they want to move up, that $50,000, that lien transfers to the next property instead of them automatically having to pay it back. But it gives them the opportunity for upward mobility, and the home that they originally purchased, which was the idea at some point, was for people to be able to buy a starter home and move up. Now, people buy a starter home, and a starter home has become your forever home, because once you buy a home at $500,000, that's it. You're done, right? People can't afford to pay their mortgage plus their insurance plus their car payment and the car insurance and the lights and the water. So all these things start to add up, and when we look at what's happening in Palm Beach County, people end up with more month than they have money, especially now where we're seeing a number of government programs being cut, grants being cut. So I like the program. I want to applaud Commissioner Woodward for being forward-thinking, and I do want to applaud staff. This is not easy stuff at all. I studied housing and community development as my sequence in my master's program, and one of the tried and true tests of affordability is if somebody has to pay more than 1/3 of their income. And in Palm Beach County right now, there are very few people, working class people, who are paying less than 1/3 of their income. So thank y'all for that.
Thank you. Before we go for round two, I actually have a question. And my question would be, if somebody is selling their house and buying another house and they're taking these dollars, are we checking their AMI at that point in time? Because if they're over the 140 AMI, are we allowing them to transfer these dollars to another home? Just a
We did not anticipate limiting any owner's ability to be upwardly mobile, say, and still carry that initial assistance with them. So no, we did not anticipate rechecking income eligibility at year 6 when the home buyer sells the home and wants to take that assistance with them and transfer the lien into the new home.
I'm not sure about that. Sure, Commissioner Powell.
Mayor, it wouldn't make sense to continue to keep their income or check their income at 140% of the area median income, because the idea of upward mobility is to be able to increase your income so that you use a program like this to lift yourself up. It's not to say I'm making 100% or 140% of the area median income. Now I want to purchase a house that is at a higher price, so I still need to be at a lower set. You give people stability so they can move up. They create an opportunity for that original home that they purchased for somebody else who is in the position that they were in to utilize it. We don't want to, it's just my opinion, we don't want to stagnate people by saying, nope, you need to stay, you're making $80,000 a year, you better not go for that raise, because if you go for that raise, we're going to ask for that $50,000 back, therefore pigeonholing you to being stuck in poverty. We want people to be upwardly mobile. Even the setup as it is going to be difficult, but economically, the idea is for people to reach higher, not to be stuck at or plateau at 140% of the area median income.
It's a question worth asking, because we have folks that are at the lower income that might qualify. And if we've taken folks out of this, what we've said, 80 to 140, and I realize, I'm not pigeonholing anybody, but we're also now taking an opportunity for somebody who is in the 80 to 140 away. So it's just a question worth asking and having a discussion about.
It is.
If all of a sudden somebody figures out how to do another program and they've got the next most fabulous video game on the planet and they're, have tons of money, it doesn't seem fair to those that are still within the 80 to 140% bracket. That's where I'm going with this.
Thank you. And that's why I think it's important we have this conversation, because I know what broke looks like. I know what broke feels like. Broke looks like you work at McDonald's, you start as the fry person. They offer you, and because of that, your income is so low that you get certain benefits. Your manager says you are killing it. They start giving you promotions. At some point, they say to you, you know what, we want to promote you to manager. But because you get incentives or you get other benefits because your income's low, you realize that if I become a manager, I'm going to lose some of the benefits that I get. So I say, you know what, thank you, I'm going to continue to kill it, but please do not make me a manager, because I'm going to lose my subsidy for childcare. And if I lose my subsidy for childcare, then I'm making less as a manager overall, because I can't afford to be upwardly mobile. And the idea is, and I know a lot of people who are like this, who work in conditions where it is not a benefit to increase your income by a little bit, $5,000. Now, and this is a problem that we dealt with in the legislature, and we continue to deal with for the entire time that I was there, is how do we allow, and some people are not going to admit, you don't put somebody on stage and say, why won't you take the opportunity to be a manager or to increase your income? And people will tell you personally, sometimes if you increase your income by $5,000, $10,000, you lose those benefits. So if I got a $50,000 loan that will go away in 15 years, and I have an opportunity to go from mid-level to management level, or to even change jobs, that would now cost me to have to pay back $50,000, why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. So I would just say, no, I'm not gonna, I got 5 years left on this loan. When I finish those 5 years, then I'll take that opportunity to step up. This is a conversation that we have to have, because I've been broke. I know it is. It is a song that says, if you ever been broke, put your hands up. I've been broke, okay? And I'm talking about real broke, like. So I'm thinking about the people who are having those kinds of issues that can be upwardly mobile. And this is why it's important that we as 7 members of this board talk about this and have those conversations.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing up this discussion. We did have it as staff, and this is a fundamental change to allow the equity being built into the property that people can take with them. And it's a change to allow them to have promotions and raises. This is a change. And I think it's an important one because, even looking into our current program, I know of someone, in the county whose daughter was renting one of our apartments, and her husband, or one of the two of them, got a raise, and their rents were going to go way up. So there's like, well, look into buying a property, and you get locked in for 15 years. You can't move, and even if you do, you get no equity out of it. Your income checked, and it's like, we want people to get promotions. We want them to get raises. We want this, and I look at this strictly as entry into the beginning of your upward mobility. I mean, that's why we do have the income in the beginning. And, the dollar amount is flexible. We talk about the $50,000, but someone could show up with $20,000. We could double it to 40. So I do caution us on trying to be, this many applicants, because the dollar amount's going to dictate how many people actually get helped by this. And I mean, I know we had a recent payment for an in lieu that had been a few years back of $500,000, and it cost us about $500,000 to build a single home. With this program, we're having 10 plus new homeowners into the market with that same amount of money. So, and it could be more depending, if people bring less than 50, it's more than that. And they're bringing skin in the game, because when people also invest in what they're getting, they want to take care of it more, but because we're also giving them equity, everything they invest into that property, they're going to get a return on their investment as well. So I kind of look at this opening up countywide. I appreciate the discussion on the timing, and I was wondering, we do have Fab Brumley here with Bank of America, who I had some questions about. And it's a good question on what's the timing for someone who's getting a loan, and like the approval process, because these are great questions. If we're gonna tie this money up, like what is the appropriate timing on that? Because, and it's going to be questionable because people are ready to buy at different times of the year. If this were an annual program, that's very limiting. And then, people are saving money, and as they continue to save money, are we going to continue to grow that match? So if you could just talk a little, introduce yourself, please, and just talk a little about how an application works. When are they locked in on the loan and the closing?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you all for having us here today. And for considering this great program. I want to also commend the county. We worked with the county several years back to make sure that our Bank of America community home ownership grants can align with the documentation of the SHIP program and any other program that the county might offer, so that it does not they don't conflict with one another. So that's already in alignment. I'm sure I speak for the industry that the industry as a whole would be willing to do that. Typically what happens on timing is we often we work with borrowers who are looking to purchase homes. Most of our clients will come in and say, what can I qualify for? And so it's a great time for them to be aware of a program that is with the county. So most of our mortgage lenders already know, again, I'm going to speak on behalf of the industry, know that these programs exist today. So awareness will be number one. And then they want to know what they qualify for, so they can actually walk in with a pre-qualification for a dollar amount that's specific. We don't usually lock in interest rates until we have a purchase contract and they have been approved. At that point in time, they can lock in the interest rate pending closure, and that lock can be extended. It's typically 90 days in the marketplace to lock in the interest rate, and then you can extend it from there for an additional 90 days. And then it's subject to the market conditions, of course. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Does that help with any of because this was a new discussion I had not considered on the timing and us tying up the funds. So, and again, we're not baking this in today. This is for a future discussion, but and I'd like to hear from the board on how you feel about trying to tie it in, because the banks will actually be the owners of these second mortgages. Is that correct? Is that how we're?
The banks will be the primary lender, so they'll have the first mortgage, and then the county will carry the second mortgage.
So if we tie it in with the bank, whoever the banking partners are, I mean, would the timing of that be sufficient? Or is that to be discussed?
I would think that would be sufficient.
Yeah, we'll absolutely continue working with the banks. The banks will give them the commitment. Once the county provides its commitment, again, as Fab mentioned, then the individual will know what their buying power is. And at that point, it's really up to the board on how long you want them to look for properties. Our process now for extension is real simple. All you do is provide us with a contract to say, hey, I need this number of days, and we do it. It's nothing more than that. We'll continue to work with the individuals that are looking to purchase, and we'll work within the time frame established. So if it's 6 months with a certain number of months for extensions, we can make that happen, because now we range from 6 months to 2 years with giving individuals opportunity to find properties.
And then, thank you for that. And then the last question, I think, for the board that we would also need to discuss is there's not been an appetite by this board to have in lieu fees as the option when developers are building, because I think most of us felt that we didn't really have a good way of spending that money. And for the developers, they have been doing the exchange program, which they've gotten very good at finding an exchange builder. Most of those exchanges have all been rentals again. So would we then just, because we can't do anything more restricted with SB 80, this exists now. And how would we want to encourage developers to start paying into this? Or is that something that this board's interested in? There's 18 million in the fund right now. We're talking about starting with 5, but if this is something we'd like to continue, I think we would need our development community to know that in lieu is an option we're interested in, because we have something like this.
To jump off of that, how many builders are in the exchange program right now with units that haven't been built?
I'm not able to answer that, Mayor. I'm not sure if anyone from PZB is available to answer that question.
Patrick's moving.
Yep.
Because that could help with the in lieu, knowing where the dollars are going.
With regard to potential exchange programs, I'm looking at my phone to see if someone's buzzing me with the information. I don't know if we have it off the top of our head. Certainly a number of them, as one you saw last Thursday, will indicate that they're proposing to use exchange, and they haven't formulated the relationship with the exchange builder. There are a number of them that are out there. Usually we're seeing them more on the fee simple products that are coming through for you, that using exchange to meet that. I don't have the exact number. We'll get that, though.
Please, because what I'm hearing is that builders are signing up for the exchange program, but those units aren't actually getting built. So if this is and I know I've been one of the largest proponents of not using in lieu, but if this is a way to actually get units on the ground faster, I might actually flip-flop on my position on in lieu fees. But if I hear builders that are saying we're in the exchange program, but there are no units to build because there isn't someone there, I know that this is going on in Boynton. There's an exchange program going on, but if you can get us the number of how many units in the exchange there are that haven't been built, I think that would help us with this. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing, Mayor, to consider is this is a pilot program, and it may be that we want to operate the program for a year, see what the success of the program is before, encouraging one way or the other, and see how often it is being utilized.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores, you've been waiting patiently too.
Well, I'm really enjoying the conversation. It looks like everybody is excited about this program, and we're also sort of on the same page. Commissioner Powell, when you talked about that person at McDonald's, I worked at McDonald's for 2 months in high school. I was a sophomore in high school. I earned $5.25 an hour. But when we talk about this, about the 140 AMI, I feel like a lot of Americans in general, the middle class, it's always bypassed because they make just enough but not enough. So all the assistance is always for the lower class, but we always forget that middle. And I think that with the 140 AMI, I think we're helping those people also be able to do better in life. And I don't want to handicap them by not being able to get a promotion or do well and continue to excel. So I like the range of the AMI. Some of the things that I did want to talk about was, can you go back to the in lieu fees? Okay. So this program, I want to be clear about this, does not create new inventory. This is to fill in the current inventory. And it's to open pathways for families, which I love, because we currently have money in the in lieu program, which needs to be utilized somehow, and I think this is a great way of utilizing this. By no way, shape, or form do I like the in lieu fee. I've said this 100 times, and I'll continue to say it 100 times. We need inventory, and we need for sale inventory or simple fee. And if we trade in a $500 home for an in lieu fee of $146, we're losing. Because the way that they get these is because they're creating they're getting a bonus. A lot of the times they get a bonus to be able to create these homes. So the builders get a bonus, then they take that bonus, and then they do the in lieu fee. So there's a big net profit there. If you do the math, there is a massive net profit for the builder. We just had one last Thursday where, they were supposed to build 4, and they went through the exchange program, and they give us 9 rental units for a project that's already going to happen anyways. There's no project out there that's going to build 9 rental units. So that's like subsidies to that other builder. So when we look at these programs, we got to be realistic about what we're talking about. In lieu fee is an easy way out for builders or developers. They make net profit 10 times what we get back. So I want to be clear about that I am in favor of this program only because we have money sitting in these in lieu fees that need to be utilized. But in no way, shape, or form do I agree with the in lieu fee or the exchange program, because we're giving bonuses to these developers, and then they go use the exchange or the in lieu fee, and they're making money on that. And I know that's not the politically correct thing to say. I know a lot of the builders are hearing right now. But it's true. I mean, we have a deficit of inventory in the county. We've done studies. We've invested a lot of time and money into this particular housing crisis, right? We're still in the housing crisis. I heard earlier say that the average HOA fee is around $300. Not in my district. I have communities paying over $700, $800, and $900. A lot of these new condos, or not new, older condos that are over 3 stories high, most of them are well over $700 in fees. Because of the state law, the assessments, now they have to do upgrades. And most of the people that live in these condos are seniors. They're trying to sell that thing for $100,000 just to get rid of it. Because the HOA fees are so astronomical. Insurance costs are through the roof. So when we look at this, and I know I'm going here on and on about some of these housing issues. Going back to the program. Let me gather myself. Just want to make sure, I know that we talked about homestead within 1 year. Some people rent their houses although they're homesteaded. So we got to make sure that we protect that. They'll buy a second home, they'll continue with a homesteaded, and they'll rent. So just want to make sure that we bake in ways to protect against people doing that.
And that's part of the reason why we will be working with the property appraiser and the tax collector to make sure that we are tracking that. And if there ends up being 2 units that are held by the same person, then we will be asking for our investment back.
And if I can piggyback on Tammy, in addition to that, our annual certifications require identification plus utility bills.
Okay, thank you. Regarding Commissioner Weiss's comment of 2 years is too long, I completely agree. I think it should be 6 months with extensions as long as they have a contract in hand. And then I think Commissioner Weiss also mentioned about first come, first serve. That makes it extremely hard for people because if you, for some reason, you can't get there or whatever it is, I think there should be some sort of lottery where it's sort of fair for everyone. You open the window for 30 days, and then if you apply within that window, then there's a lottery, and it's sort of randomly picked. So I think those are the comments that I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, since we've all been doing a lot of talking about this, maybe we can come to our final conclusions, and then you can all have direction. So Commissioner Sachs, you would be up next. How do you feel about where we're going, and what would you make as your
Absolutely agree with you, Mayor.
presentation?
If you could put this together for us, we've had a lot of discussion. I've learned, 7 commissioners, we all have 7 stories. Although I did flip burgers when I was 15 also, but wasn't at a McDonald's. Anyways, for those out there who are working at small little places that working class folks, and many of us were there, see what you can do. And with we have, I put down 18 million. Is that how much we have in this fund from in lieu fees? Is that it, Mr. Fiat? Okay, so I like to know, what are we doing with that? What do we have been doing? I asked sort of on the side if it's making interest. I know a bank that would probably like to take the fund, give us a little interest, But that's a lot of money to be sitting in a fund. We have, do we have housing out there? Do we have townhouses? Do we have condos? We got some, and if you need, whatever you need, tell us. But we need a picture here of what's going on in the county with housing and what's going on in the county with the money that we will spend for housing. And Commissioner Powell had such a great point. It was a huge article about how we stymie people from going up, because if they go up in salary, then they're going to lose their benefits. And there's even an office that will help them keep their benefits, but not go up. And that's not the American way. So I want to know about that as well, to put it together. And I think she left, Ms. Jacks, but if she needs any assistance from the county in policing this idea of homestead, she's got a big organization, big office, but if she needs any additional connection with us, then we can also discuss that at a later date. But this is a good time to start on this housing issue, and I appreciate all the comments from my fellow commissioners. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Weiss, then Commissioner Powell, then Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, to Commissioner Powell's comment about the fiscal cliff, and having some way of potentially amortizing, although it sort of negates with this program, because you have that portability that they can take it and buy another place, but maybe looking at it towards our other programs. So, but it's something I've thought about and been concerned about for a long time as it relates to how we provide various forms of assistance to people, and they do. And it's a rational decision that they're making. So we want people to move up. I also worked in a restaurant when I was in high school. Bob's Big Boy for me. So
I did Tasty Freeze.
sorry, only you and I will know about that. Yeah. Yep. I think, though, so this is to staff administrator, I think another discussion as it relates to the whole idea of understanding the exchange program, the in lieu, and how that all works, and really looking at it from a numbers perspective, because what the developers are doing is they're subsidizing these other units. They are buying down the cost, if it's a rental unit, or they're buying down the cost of a for sale unit to make them available to folks at a lower income. But I think I think we would all benefit from a discussion on that, and then from there, I think a discussion into the in-lieu fees makes a lot of sense. After we have a really good perspective on that. So, but I really do applaud you guys for what you've come up with. This is, it's innovative, and you're ticking a lot of the boxes that we've been challenged by in the past. So great work to you all.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. SHIP and HOME. The SHIP is the State Housing Initiative Partnership. HOME, Housing Opportunities Made Easy.
Actually, HOME is just the name. It's Home Investment Partnership Program, but
Home Investment Partnership Program. In those programs, as indicated earlier, I think it's Commissioner Weiss who said once those programs open up, within an hour, probably less than that, how quickly do those funds, and I know you said with SHIP it's a little bit more than $1 million, how quickly are those funds expensed?
For the home buyer program, you're probably talking 40 minutes to an hour. For the rehab program, you're typically talking about an hour to hour and a half.
So with these funds, it would be reasonably more, $5 million just to initiate, which can help more. As Commissioner Woodward said, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone will get $50,000. It's up to $50,000, so I like that. I like the portability of this particular program. What Commissioner Flores indicated, the idea of the fee in lieu. The fee in lieu is an incentive for the developers or whoever's developing, because they win. $146,769 per single family unit, and they're able to pay that. Now, if we were to increase the fee in lieu, that might be something that I don't know if we could do that statutorily, but it's worth having that conversation. Now, I love just about all the ideas for the program and the feedback that we got from my colleagues. I'm ready to see what the team brings back, because I think this is an innovative program that gives us an opportunity to really help people. We as a board have indicated that we would like to see people be able to purchase homes. But I did want everyone to take into account when you purchase a home, it's principals, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA fees, and any other, if somebody lives on a CDD, what they have to pay for living in that CDD, if they had to pay for the infrastructure, why that CDD exists. So we really should take those things into account as well when providing opportunities for people. But for the most part, I think this is a wonderful opportunity that will help more people, and it does create the opportunity for home ownership, which is what we as a board have been advocating for. So thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What are you guys taking away as far as time frame goes?
I'm sorry, Tammy. At this point, I have a 6-month time frame with the options for extensions based on a contract, or if you're going to do the 90-day period. That's what I've heard a couple people say.
And I guess I wanted longer, and I was agreeing with Commissioner Weiss that there should be some. He liked the extension. I do agree with Commissioner Powell, though, ultimately, because I was formerly a real estate agent, that I think 6 months of a time frame is short. I think, and how often are these applications open?
So again, hearing the board, initially we were thinking we would open up a round and allow individuals to apply. And so you may end up with most of the monies being committed once that 30-day window is open. And then I've heard the board talk about a lottery, some sort of lottery process to identify buyers. That will be, instead of first come, first ready, a lottery process to identify those that would be then chosen first for the process.
I guess I've never really been a fan of a lottery process, because who picks that lottery?
We would use a randomizer to do that. Instead of us picking it, we would use a randomizing tool.
I like more consistency, so people know when it's opening, when it's closing, but if the random, I'm not set on that enough, or if they feel, my fellow commissioners feel random is fine, we'll go with that. I ultimately, like I said in the beginning, would like to see up to a year, 6 months within, even if you wanted to do it in 2 90-day extensions, we're back to a year, because I think that's a better time frame than 6 months. We're trying to help people, not make it more burdensome for them. I did like the idea that Commissioner Flores was discussing. The in lieu fees are only 18 million right now. We're starting with 5 of that. Maybe looking at, if, I don't know where we'll go with those in lieu fees, because he does not like them, but ultimately my question was, how do we use, and are we able to use the housing bond dollars for something like this towards helping create units? Because we have a purchasing process for the housing bond dollars that I'm absolutely not a fan of. It doesn't work, it doesn't help. We see those units less and less, where something like this could really be impactful. So again, are we able to use those dollars towards creating units?
We can utilize the housing bond dollars towards creating new affordable and workforce homeownership units. However, we wouldn't be able to use the dollars in this way because they require repayment.
And they require a competitive process. That is one of the stipulations that was put in the bond.
Got it. So for another day, another topic of maybe looking at and working, again, just the purchasing portion of those, we need to find a way to use those dollars, because ultimately that is our largest pot of dollars to help incentivize people who want to purchase homes. I think every commissioner up here has said we want to see a more purchase-based programs from the county. So if we could do something with that, that would be absolutely amazing. As far as everything else goes, the one, I don't want to check for the 140 again. If we're allowing the transfer, I think we should be allowing them to move up. And really, it's just timing. I want to make sure that we are not the hurdle stopping people from getting into another program. And that application process, and it doesn't need, unless my fellow commissioners want to do it, you can do it with us one-on-one. I would actually like to know what our application processes look like for these programs. I've gone through one, and it was very, very burdensome. And I will even tell people it's one of the reasons I'm sitting here today, because these county processes almost put me out of business. So we really need to take a look at that and make sure that we are not the hurdle causing problems for whether it's small businesses or whether it's home ownership. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Woodward, do you want the last word? Because I actually have some comments. Since this was your baby, I'll give you the last word. From my perspective, as we're going down the list, I would be in favor of a lottery system. I would be in favor of 6 months plus extensions. I think the $5 million as the pilot program dollars are good. I'm fine with portability. I just wanted to ask the question, devil's advocate. We have to do that every once in a while. I'm fine with the 15 years forgivable, and I worked at a bowling alley. Just saying. So we've all had our challenges. But Commissioner Woodward, I want to thank you for bringing this up. Administrator, your light is on. before I ask Commissioner Woodward to finish, would you like to go?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly for the Vice Mayor's comments and yours as well, Mayor. If you would like to put it in an independent party, I could have a conversation with Clerk Caruso. The staff over at the clerks, the incredible staff over at the clerks, is extremely versed at lottery systems. We do it for juries and other things, so we can remove it from administration and put it in a independent third party. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. Commissioner Woodward, thank you so much for bringing this forward and getting this dialogue going. So you get the last word.
Well, thank you. And really, this came from multitude of previous discussions this board has had about trying to find homeownership, upward mobility, a way for people to kind of move up in this. So all of you, thank you for all of the discussions. And I do very much agree to keep it as simple as possible because like our current workforce housing program, it's very complicated. I don't know how many meetings we've had. I'm still trying to understand parts of it. So keeping it simple, very important. And I agree on the timing. It's to be decided at the future one, but maybe something that's quarterly so that, we have a certain dollar amount that we would do quarterly so people know even if the timing wasn't right for them. Because when people buy a home, it is also sometimes dictated. They want to wait till their kids finish this school year perhaps, and they want to move to this other area. So having a rolling kind of timeline, every 90 days, we're going to have another opening with a certain amount of money might be helpful as we start this. It is a new program. It's a pilot. So, we'll have to work some of this out as we go. But I did want to thank staff. This was a big thing to pull together. And, a lot of questions, and it is somewhat of a fundamental shift from before. And I know some of our conversations, you're like, but no, that's not how this goes. I'm like, but can it? And you said it can, as long as the board agrees. And I think the board, I'm very happy with the discussion from today. And thank you for everyone else who participated in this. And because it is a match, I agree with the lottery to make sure people can come in, but I think, because it is a match, the numbers, we may be pleasantly surprised how many people we're able to help because not everyone's coming in with $50,000 sitting there to invest in this. There's going to be people with $10,000 or, I had one gentleman tell me, he told his son, hey, whatever you save, I'll match and you can take that to the county and try to get into a program like this. So we don't know what those dollar amounts are going to be and how this works out, but I'm hopeful and very excited and thank you all very much for your support on it.
Patrick, you have a number?
Just want to, yes, I have 2 points actually, Mayor, thank you. The question was about the exchange units numbers. There are 5 projects that have used the exchange and are working with 5 different off-site locations, constituting a total of 192 exchange units. 42 of these are built, 37 are under construction, and then another 113 are not built at the moment. So they'd be in future projects. The Commissioner's question was on timing mechanisms and where they fall. Yes, there are timing mechanisms that require the exchange units to be constructed prior to other timing points on the parent project. So we get our units before the parent project closes out. And then your question, Commissioner, a point, we're coming back to you November 13th, following up with direction from August on the discussion of the workforce housing program. We can do a little bit of a deeper dive on the exchange in the in lieu, how we arrive at the numbers, a little bit of the history. We can take that step back if that's the board's pleasure.
I think so because, again, this is a pilot program, so it's only taking $5 million of the $18 million. And there are, because our hands are tied right now, we actually can't get rid of the in lieu fees. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's still an option that's on the table. Going forward, we'll see what happens, but let's see the success of this program. That may dictate getting more units on the ground more quickly. So I'd like to thank everybody for that discussion. You've got your marching orders?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What we're going to do now, we're now back to the regularly scheduled agenda. And we're going to listen now to the legislative agenda. We will break after the legislative agenda for lunch. So it means the second part of the workshop, which is the county attorney interviews, will take place after lunch. So just to give everybody a clue, because legislative agenda, and we have a little fire add-on at the end there may take a little while, so I have a feeling we're going to be in this discussion for about an hour, so. Thank you. Got a table of suits. Hey, good-looking table of men here. All righty, who's going first?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor,
I didn't embarrass you, did I?
No, not
Okay,
at all,
good.
not at all.
Was I politically incorrect? Attorney, am I in
No,
trouble for
you were
that?
perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the indulgence from the board this morning. I just want to briefly kick it off, but I first want to address Commissioner Powell and update the board. I asked for the extension because we were in contract negotiations with Ballard Partners and Capital City. I'm pleased we just closed out the Ballard Partner contract, and I believe we just got it back yesterday. And Capital City, everything's agreed to, but we do not have it back from them. My goal was to have them here, but the contracts were not complete. So the way I'm going to handle that, I will be coming by with the representatives from both lobbying firms in individual meetings in each of your offices so we can meet the team. Former Senate President Jeff Atwater and Matt Forrest from Ballard Partners will be our local contacts and working on our accounts. The federal office runs a little differently, and we'll get into that. Capital City, our incredible relationship with Nick Rossi, he has agreed to actually oversee the account personally himself, which is a rarity. I think we did very good on the negotiations. I know it took a few weeks longer than anticipated, but I think I know we are. They're lowering their fees for us here at the county. I know we did a good job on negotiating the dollar amount, so we're in a good place.
Administrator?
Yes.
On that token, we will, I don't know, and maybe I haven't seen it, the contract amount, we'll see that, correct? And
You will, but I have no problem disclosing that publicly. Ballard Partners has agreed for $100,000 for federal, $100,000 for local. They are, all their new contracts for local is closer to $200,000 just for local. Capital City, Nick Rossi is doing it for an equal match at $100,000. So $300,000 was expended for those two lobby firms.
Perfect. And the RFPs, when did they close?
It wasn't an RFP.
Okay.
You allocated the.
Yeah, it was similar to an RFP that went out. It was an RFS that went out. So then those applications came back in, were scored, and then subsequently negotiated, and the contracts were sent out to them last week. They were delivered to both of those firms.
Okay. And they were due, the RFS?
They were due back, I want to say 2 weeks ago was the date that they were due back, roughly.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs.
Sure, I'd just like to comment, because I know Commissioner Powell, as state senator, also worked with many lobbyists in Tallahassee, and I'm sure some of my colleagues have worked in Washington with some of the issues there. There's no better lobbying firms than the ones that you have hired, Administrator Abruzzo. I mean, Ballard Partners has been noted to be the best, most powerful, and most persuasive lobbying firm in Washington. Of course, it's always been like that in Tallahassee. And of course, Capital City with Nick Rossi, we can't lose. He's just such a great guy. And they all have connections there. And Todd knows, because Todd's been working with him very successfully up in Tallahassee as well as Washington. So this is this is a big score. It is a big score. And we need it, because with the push in Tallahassee with against home rule is really a critical time for us and for the people of this county. So we really need to have the A team, and I think we have. We also have, I believe, a new advocate sitting on the dais with you there on the table. So I wonder if you could introduce him as well, because I know his boss, pretty good guy and pretty persuasive, and also with the A-team in, in Tallahassee. Thank you for your efforts. County Administrator Abruzzo, we could not have, I feel like this is the best team we can have in terms of, and we are the best team we can have for what we are facing in Tallahassee, as well as Washington, D.C. This is the A-team. Thank you very much.
And before we go on, question, I know we have several lobbying firms that have helped us in the past with Tallahassee. How does that stand?
They are under contract and are still with us, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
And would you like to?
I would, and I just wanted to briefly state that looking from the outside before I came into the position, surviving the veto pen, as you know, is so critical. And I believe that the new help will assist us with that. I know you've all met Alessandro recently, and it's a pleasure to have him on board. And actually, Ryan, I was going to kick it to you so you could introduce yourself and go through it. So please.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, please give me a little leeway. This is my first time actually addressing appropriately. I want to thank Administrator Abruzzo for having faith in what we can accomplish together. Palm Beach County has been fantastic to me and my family, and the ability to give back and be a part of such a great team is nothing better than I can look forward to. I was working with Senator Scott, as many of you know. I know many of us up here. It was fantastic, and like Commissioner Weiss had said, I think I'll get a paycheck here, federally, just updated wise. It's going to be a difficult process. As of November 1st, there's going to be stops on WIC, things like that. So I think there's going to be some forward momentum going up. But that being said, I'm here for everything to support the county and make sure that the commissioners' agendas are met. And however I can be effective, please let me know.
And for those watching at home, Ryan, I know your last name doesn't sound like it's spelled. Would you like to pronounce your last name for us?
Yes, my last name is pronounced Natick.
There you go.
And it starts with an H.
Mayor, Ryan coming on board, it's not only his federal experience, but I've had some ample time to sit down with Ryan, and his managerial experience and leadership in the department, I think will serve us extremely well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's leading the discussion?
Alessandro.
Good morning. Pleasure to present your state legislative agenda, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So we'll get started with the Housing and Economic Development section. And to note, all the items in red are new items. Items in black are items that have been in previous agendas. We fully expect there to be a Live Local glitch bill again this session, so we'll keep a close eye to preserve our local home rule control while addressing the affordable housing crisis. Last year, we also had the legislation regarding mid-year rent increases on taxpayer-funded units. Rep. Tendrich and Senator Bernard carried that legislation. They may file it again this session. We will be closely monitoring and supporting that legislation as well. A new issue, but it's a very important priority to the county, is County Road 80 funding. We expect the Rural Renaissance to be refiled this session with the County Incentive Grant Program language that was in last year's iteration of Rural Renaissance, as well as a state appropriations for the C51 and the Sem Center Road bridges for County Road 880. Moving on to our healthcare section, we have a new local bill for our child care capacity licensing, working with DOH, and this would align our child care capacity requirements with DCF's requirements. We have asked Rep. Gerwig to run that local bill. We're supporting our transportation disadvantage funding, as well as our state attorney's task force for the addiction recovery They'll have their glitch bill this session with Senator Harrell and Rep. Cassell for this legislative session.
And before you go on, Vice Mayor Baxter
Yes.
has her light on.
Did you happen to bring us all copies of this presentation?
Yes, I did send it.
Well, generally speaking, when we come and we have workshop items, they're up here.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure if I was missing it. I mean, we do have I have the book
Yep.
of the legislation, but I'm just talking about the specific presentation. Do we have extra copies anywhere? Well, I mean, there's 7 of us. You memorize. Now that's a memory. Thank you.
Apologies. And the final item in the healthcare silo is the public records exemption for the medical examiner autopsy reports. The bill has been filed in the House. It's HB 21 by Rep. Kendall. Moving on to the budget and taxation section. The big focus this legislative session is on property taxes. The House has released their 8 property tax proposals, as well as Senator Bernard in the Senate has also filed 8 property tax bills himself. They address different issues from getting rid of all homestead ad valorem taxes to exempting all seniors from paying taxes to portability to there's even a bill in the Senate to cap increases similar to a Save Our Homes cap for small businesses. We had the opportunity to meet with Chair Lopez this past committee week, and we are taking her advice and having a public meeting presentation on property taxes and all the services we provide, as well as modeling how, if they reduce revenues for property taxes, how would that impact the county? And we'll be incorporating that into the agenda for the joint workshop on December 15th.
Thank you.
In addition, we are constantly monitoring and opposing unfunded mandates and the expansion of tourist development taxes, and we will keep a close eye on legislation that does impact any of those areas. Moving on to the growth management section, we fully expect there to be a legislation in discussing impact fees. This was there was a panel in the Intergovernmental Affairs Subcommittee on impact fees, and we'll keep a close eye on that legislation. It did come up last legislative session, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Moving on to growth management, I know SB 180 is a very big priority for the county, and we fully expect there to be a glitch bill this session. Senator DeSigli and Rep. McFarland, the sponsors of the legislation from last session, have committed to filing a glitch bill, so we'll be closely monitoring the changes that are proposed this session. Currently, there has been a bill filed in addressing SB 180, but just for counties that were impacted by hurricanes that would only impact the Panhandle, and that was filed by Rep. Abbott and Senator Gates. The transportation infrastructure, this is supporting legislation that would require our utilities like FPL and AT&T when they damage our water mains and one of our right-of-way projects to be reimbursed. A big priority of our county is addressing the budget gap that was created because of the tax package last session for the Tri-Rail. We will be closely monitoring the legislative solution that is negotiated with our lobby team, with the Senate President's office and the Speaker's office, and we'll be closely keeping an eye on that. And finally, this is an issue brought to us by our airports department. There have been fraudulent Ubers and transportation network companies that are taking advantage of our vulnerable populations, including our elderly, and we are working with our lobby team and with the associations on potentially addressing language to require a public accessible database so that law enforcement can access whether the transportation network companies are valid and be able to enforce those provisions if there are violations. Moving on to the public safety section, we have our second local bill for this legislative session dealing with the Construction Industry Licensing Board. This is a bill that we run by Rep. Edmonds, and it's similar to the local bill from last session with the Building Code Advisory Board. This would align with current industry professional standards, whereby the applicants to the CILB would have to have completed the examination in order for their application to be under review, and this would remove duplication of review of applications as currently allowed. The reentry for returning residents, this is the appropriations we run every year for the Palm Sago facility, and they'll be run by Rep. Weinberger and Senator Berman. In our victim services section, we are very supportive of any legislation that would protect our victims of sexual assault, as well as supporting increased funding for butterfly houses across the county. We are also supporting a public records exemption for our victim advocates in the Public Safety Department, and Senator Polsky will be refiling that legislation this legislative session. We are still finalizing a House sponsor for that bill. Moving on to the mobile home and manufactured safety, which is a priority in Commissioner Flores' district. We are looking at legislation that would make our landlords responsible for the building code and fire safety violations, and we're working with our lobby team and with the mobile home associations to address that issue through administrative enforcement as well as through legislative action this legislative session. And finally, in the public safety section, we have the licensing of occupations in regards to our independent home caregivers program and our adult entertainers in the public safety department. And we are filing legislation to be able to regain the authority that was preempted in last year's occupational licensing bill, which preempted the county from regulating both occupations. And we have asked Senator Harrell and Rep. Skidmore to run that legislation in this legislative session. Moving on to the fire rescue section, and I do want to clarify this issue as we've received a lot of confusion from the cities and the municipalities. This item is a county local bill, a fire union local bill, not a county bill, and it is not HB 123, the special districts bill filed by Rep. Overdorf. This would be a local bill that will be presented at the November 13th local bill public hearing, and Chair Snyder will be carrying this local bill. And what this municipal services taxing unit bills would do is, if a municipality were to incorporate unincorporated property, they would continue to pay the fire rescue services to the MSTU. It would not increase taxes. And additionally, in the fire rescue section, we have the urban rescue designation. We are supportive of Palm Beach County having the ability to get that designation for our urban rescue search team, and it's a big priority for our fire rescue department. Miami-Dade County has 2 USAR teams. We would love to have that designation as well if we have to respond and get that team activated. And finally, we oppose any legislation that would hamper or impact our fire code enforcement. In our criminal justice section, we are supportive of legislation that would protect driver safety as well as or law enforcement if they are come in contact with fluids in a confrontation with a suspect, so they can get immediately tested their blood and prevent any contamination. And this is as a priority brought to us by the FAU police chief. In the local government administration section, we oppose any legislation that would impact our ability to have local preference. We'll monitor closely any municipal annexation legislation that is filed this legislative session. There has been a bill filed this session on sovereign immunity caps. It's HB 145, filed by Rep. McFarland. Last year, her iteration of this bill was a much more steeper increase in the caps. This year, it is a much more scaled and gradual increase from 200,000 to 300,000 to 600,000 and so on over the time frame. But it's a much more scaled increase than last year's iteration, which went from 200,000 to 2 million. Finally, we'll closely monitor any bills that impact our building code. We fully expect there to be a package on permitting this legislative session, as well as a additional condo bill this session. There was a condo bill filed last week by Chair Snyder dealing with the statute of repose. That's HB 255. He has refiled that legislation from last session. And we expect Senator Bradley and Chair Lopez to file a condo bill again this session, as well as a live local bill with Senator Kaladiud. And finally, we will be closely monitoring any legislation and supporting that would reduce the cost of insurance and premiums. There have been multiple insurance bills filed this legislative session by multiple members in the House and the Senate. One bill to note, there is a bill filed to provide a tax credit on home hardening products filed by Senator Osgood and Rep. Dunkley that we will be closely monitoring and supporting for our housing department. In our education silo, we will be closely supporting our stakeholders, including our libraries department, our school district, FAU, Palm Beach State College, with their appropriations and legislative requests this legislative session. In our environment silo, we'll be closely monitoring, supporting our grant programs, including for FDAP, the beach inlet management funding. We have requested $30 million and have a local match of $35 million for this. And our two main important initiatives that we have water projects requested, the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative and the Loxahatchee River Preservation Initiative. And we have multiple projects, 7 in the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative and 2 for the Lox River Preservation Initiative. I had covered our local bills, but just to reiterate, the first one is the child care capacity licensing, which would align our maximum capacity requirements with DCF's requirements, and this would address the child care shortage and address our small businesses by providing them greater opportunities to have more kids in their programs. So it's a win-win. Finally, our second local bill is the Construction Industry Licensing Board. And as I mentioned, this aligns with best practices for industry standards, where the applicant would have to have completed their examination in order to apply to the CILB. Finally, for our 2026 requested appropriations, if you note, the items in red are all new items. We will be going after a $13 million appropriations for County Road 880 for the SAM Center and the C51 bridge replacements, and that'll be filed by Rep. Gerwig and Senator Harrell. The Australian Avenue, we are refiling that appropriations. That'll be carried by Chair Snyder and Senator Bernard. The Okehilly Fieldhouse is a new appropriations that'll be filed by Rep. Gerwig and Senator Bernard. The water treatment plant number 8 will be filed by Senator Berman and Rep. Weinberger. Water treatment plant number 2 is a new appropriations as well, will be filed by Rep. Gerwig and Senator Bernard. Lantana Airport is a new project, will be filed by Senator Bernard and Rep. Tendrich. Our Murakami Museum appropriations is when we are refiling this legislative session, will be carried by Senator Berman and Rep. Skidmore. Our Peanut Island is a project we are refiling, will be carried by Senator Bernard and Chair Snyder. Our youth shelter is a new appropriations, will be carried by Chair Snyder and Senator Harrell. Our Burt Aronson South County Regional Cross Country will be a new appropriations carried by Rep. Skidmore and Senator Polsky. Our Restore Reentry, we are refiling that appropriations, will be Senator Berman and Rep. Weinberger, and it's a successful appropriations every year. Our fire rescue water vehicles is one we're refiling this legislative session with Senator Berman and Rep. Weinberger. And finally, our Ocean Inlet Park will be Rep. Gossett-Seidman and Senator Berman. And finally, our projects for the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative and the Lox River. In the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative, the first project for the barometry survey will be carried by Rep. Gossett-Seidman, and I will note that all Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative projects are carried by Senator Bernard. The North Lakeway Living Shoreline will be Rep. Gossett-Seidman as well. The City of Green Acres Septic to Sewer will be carried by Rep. Gerwig. The Peanut Island will be carried by Rep. Gossett-Seidman as well. The Lake Park Septic to Sewer will be carried by Rep. Edmonds. The town of Manalapan septic to sewer will be carried by Rep. Gerwig, and the Gulfview Heights will be carried by Rep. Edmonds. In the Locks River section, all the Senate will be carried by Senator Harrell, and on the House side will be carried by Rep. Gossett-Seidman. And that is it from me.
Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you so much, Alessandro. You're doing a great job. It's your first presentation, huh? All right. You see what happens in Tallahassee when that goes on. Thank you for that very good synopsis. Could you or anybody on your team explain if there are any bills that we need to be wary of that are coming that could adversely affect what we have going here in Palm Beach County? And secondly, how we can best confront that, either a letter from the mayor or are contacting certain legislators. So you've given a good explanation as to what we're looking forward. But what is pending right now, even though we're still in committee week, but what is pending right now that could be of a bad effect, deleterious effect on the county, and how we can best combat that? Thank you.
So, on first glance, the property tax proposals would have the biggest financial impact to the county. The proposal to get rid of all homestead ad valorem taxes would cost the county $600 million at first glance. We are currently doing a fiscal impact with the rest of the bills through OFMB, and we will get you that fiscal impact for all property tax proposals.
Go ahead, Mr. Broussard.
Always Senator, right?
Sorry.
I've instructed staff to get us numbers on 5, 10, 15, and 20% reductions to each of their departments. So
Very
we'll
good.
be receiving that back, Commissioner.
Very good.
And we plan to be presenting that to the board November 25th at the board's scheduled workshop meeting. So we're putting that presentation together as we speak. It will cover all 8 of the House proposals. It will cover some of the proposals from members of our legislative delegation who we discussed, as well as some of the conversations we've had with board members about some ideas they had. So we're going to try to package that all for you so you have a broad sweep and understanding of impacts of all of those.
Is that, Mr. Bonlaren, is that specifically on the property tax issues?
Yes, Commissioner.
All right, that would be good. And then I'd like for you at that time to recommend or suggest what we can do as a board to confront those, to let them know, and also to let us know we're the tax basis for the state. I do believe that, and I'd like to see if it could be confirmed, because this may work well for Dixie or Union or Wakulla counties, but we're Palm Beach, and I'd like to see our fiscal, what we contribute to the state of Florida, and what impact this would have on our tax bases and services. Is there anything else that we should be wary of that is going through the pipeline at this time, Alessandro?
Yes, there's been a growth management package filed in the Senate by Senator McLean that we'll keep a close eye on. For next committee week, there have been a couple bills placed on the subcommittee agendas. One is SB 48, which deals with ADUs, housing, filed by Senator Gates, as well as in the healthcare in the Senate, there have been a dental care for veterans, a bill that has been agendaed in the Senate, so we'll keep a close eye on both bills as well.
Well, very good. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alessandro, for the presentation. Fabulous job, really. I was watching, you weren't even using your notes, so you must have memorized this presentation really well, because that was, you went through it. Couple things. Obviously, very supportive of everything that you've put in, you all put together in the package. But a couple of things I think deserve, and you didn't take us through that in your program.
Sure.
The adults and students with disabilities and increased funding. I know those families really struggle, and so I think it's really important that the state keep up to help. I mean, people didn't choose to have these disabilities and these issues, And I think as a community, it's really important we support these families. The autonomous vehicles and technology enhancements, I think I know you say you're going to monitor that, but I think it's important. We really need in Florida to get off the dime. Other states are really moving forward, and I know there's been some movement with, I think, Waymo's coming to Miami, but if we want to have this technology, and we're trying to bring, this to Palm Beach County, not just technology, but the technology sector of the economy here, you will need to create an environment for these companies to want to be here. I think the reentry, and we have been able to get money for people that are coming out of Sago Palms to help us with that, but we've had great success in reducing recidivism in our community, and that saves the taxpayer money. When people are able to take care of themselves and their families, not to be dependent on the community, that's excellent. I know you all are going to be monitoring, my office is contacted regarding dangerous dogs and legislation there, so I really appreciate that. The assault of code enforcement and animal control officers, that's huge. These people, unfortunately, it's the time that we're living in where these folks are subject to not only verbal abuse, but physical violence, and that's just it's not right. And these people are doing their job to help protect our community, protect our property values and our homeowners, and they shouldn't have to be treated as anything but first-class citizens and be protected. Vacation rentals, as you all know, are still a challenge here. I can't speak for other communities, but they're a challenge here in Palm Beach County. I'm dealing with a situation right now in District 2 they are licensed, we don't know actually if they're licensed. And that's one of the other issues that we have had, is that there is no ability to report where these units are, other than if you go and search the rental databases, but that doesn't always, it's time consuming, and so I think there needs to be more transparency. The other thing we find out is, even though last year they did try and make some adjustments to allow, require that there's a 24-hour number, it's not working. We need something more, so when something is going awry next door, that the next door neighbors have a mechanism to really get relief, so that they're not having to deal with that. The Juvenile Detention Center, that's something that's been on my radar for as long as I've been on this board. And I asked my other board members, if you have not been to this facility, you should visit it. It is horrendous. And it's time for the state to step up. No child should be locked up in a facility like that. And then I was really pleased to see on the dependency, children aging out of foster care. Some do get committed to the juvenile system. They've come from very difficult situations, and to try and get them back on the road, I think that legislation at least provides that. And speaking on behalf of the Supervisor of Elections serving on the canvassing board, we really miss out not having our supervisor available during presidential election. It's tough at any time during any election, but certainly during a presidential election, to have the supervisor available as part of the canvassing board, and as part of running their own operations and not having to campaign, we would all benefit from. And lastly, derelict vessel. There's plenty of things here, but derelict vessels, if you actually, from our windows, you can see a sunken sailboat out in the lagoon. And so without funding for those kinds of programs, and I know it's on the list to be removed, but without having that funding available, those vessels would sit there for probably years before they would be taken out. So that's very important. And the last thing I have has to do with funding. The state has been a great partner in helping develop the C51 reservoir. We need to get that conveyance completed, or at least started, to move that water up to both the Locks River and up to the well fields, make it available so it can be utilized by the county. So let's make sure we don't miss that. But I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, and so comprehensive, and there's plenty of other great things that you all have put in here that we haven't discussed this morning, and maybe some of my colleagues will, but really appreciate your efforts this year.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be quick because I know we're probably all getting hungry. Just a couple that weren't mentioned in your PowerPoint, but it's in the other agenda that you sent on page 6. You mentioned we have the mid-lease rent increase, and we started with that last year, trying to get it passed, and it's basically where when the new AMI numbers come out, we have properties who have increased rents on tenants as soon as those numbers come out, and instead of at their lease renewal. And in the conversations we had with some of the House reps last year, or in the Senate, I just don't know that we were able to convey that this isn't about hurting a business as much as it is giving tenants, reliability, and that they've signed a year lease, they should have that amount for the full year. We didn't get much traction last year, but we had a little. So I would appreciate to be able to push that through. And I think, is it a local bill, or are we trying to do it statewide? Because
Statewide.
Okay, good. Because I don't think a lot of other areas were even aware of it. We were not aware of it till it was brought to our attention, because you wouldn't think a landlord would do that, but I guess legally they could. So we need to fix that. And then I'll just kind of add on the septic to sewer conversions. Because Palm Beach County, we have a number of these sewer areas or septic areas that are actually barrier islands. And it's concerning, one, when we get the king tides, you're kind of pouring water on a wet sponge, but it's also two bodies of water. It's the ocean and the intercoastal waterway on either side of those. And, we just had torrential downpours in Boca. It's big surprise Sunday night. I mean, these heavy rains can come at any time, but just knowing that the runoff of those areas is ocean and intercoastal. So please, can we make it a priority for any of the septic to sewer? And we have a number of applicants for funds for that, but especially if they're close to canals, if it's close to bodies of water, those really need to be prioritized. So that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Sacks.
I just want to comment on Commissioner Weiss. Your name should be Commissioner Wise, because you have really a good point on every one of these issues, and I appreciate that. With regard to the juvenile detention center, let me just say a 2-minute story. I represented a 10-year-old boy who was a resident at the detention center. And when I asked why the kids couldn't go outside, they said there was a hole in the fence. So I said, well, just fix the damn hole. And they said, no, we can't. We have to get money from Tallahassee. Da, da, da. So I invited the judges and bank vice presidents to a Christmas party, something we might think about, at the detention center. And when they all came to see and the kids were really good, they put on this great dance and show and everything. So when the bankers and the judges said, well, can we, what's it like outside? And I said, well, there's a hole in the fence. Kids can't play outside. They got to stay inside 24 hours, 7 days a week. The bankers took out their checkbooks. And we ourselves, private citizens, I was not a public official, private citizens, we paid for a new fence. So the kids could go out and they could play soccer, or and so we can do something about it, because Tallahassee never looks at our juvenile detention center. And these are little kids. So let's have this conversation, and let's see what we can do. Christmas is coming up. We could have a little party out there. I know a couple of banks and developers would love to come out. And let's see. First of all, the kids put on a great show. And secondly, those are our kids. That's our detention center on 45th Street. So if we wait, and that's when I wanted to run for office. But the bottom line is that sometimes Tallahassee's far away, and we can do some things right here. So I so appreciate it. Maybe we could have that discussion. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, former Senator and Commissioner. You know, I do have to give props to Tallahassee. We had the head of the prison system was down here for a conference, and I was able to speak with him a few years ago. And then they did allocate some money to do some repairs, but it really needs to be rebuilt. It's not to the standards, I think, that our children deserve. So, and I have been to a couple of their holiday parties there, and let's just say that it can be quite emotional to be able to spend time with these kids that are separated from their families. You know, look, bad things may have happened, but they're still children. So.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Board, I also wanted to recognize Deputy Administrator Tom Nadler. We all know him from his public safety background, but in his previous life, he was actually a vice president of a large telecommunication company. So everything you see here ultimately reports through Deputy Administrator Nadler. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. I have no other lights on? I'll go. Fire rescue. Local initiative, Toby Oberdorf. Can you give us a little, can somebody please explain? And also the fact that, you know, several of us represent some large cities that do annex. I want to make sure that, and I've gotten letters of objection from a lot of municipalities, so let's just throw that out there to begin with. And I can get on both sides of the fence here. Fire rescue, we have, our fire rescue department is second to none. It has an infrastructure in place. It plans for future infrastructure. We can't plan unless we know who we're serving, and we're serving it to the best of our ability. Municipalities, I think there's 21 municipalities that don't use Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. Some of those municipalities are doing annexations, large and small. Small, Juno Beach added like 10, 20 houses during the last go-round. Gardens failed miserably on their annexation plan. Wellington added 19 parcels. So there's large and small annexations. I want to be assured that Fire Rescue is talking to the municipalities, and there is a true non-double taxation. And I know I've gotten lots of explanations of why it's not double taxation, but if you're, say you do a large annexation with Boynton Beach and you're annexing 1,000 units, are you just going to collect for those 1,000 units, Fire Rescue? Or now are you saying to all of Boynton Beach, we're going to collect X amount of dollars from you, and that money is spread to every taxpayer in Boynton? I need a little bit more explanation, and there's a lot of questions, and Toby Oberdorf has put a bill in. You all are doing a local initiative. I just want more info, and I know that this is probably the kickoff of what you're doing, but I want our municipalities also to be whole in what they're doing and in their infrastructure, and us whole in our infrastructure. I hope that makes sense, okay? Because I know I've gotten a letter, lots of letters of objections, and the one main thing from the municipalities is that they weren't talked to. So I try to get everybody to come to the middle and make sure we're all on the same page so that you have support from everybody. So I want to make sure that municipalities are not, in fact, carrying a larger burden for all of their taxpayers when it's really maybe the 1,000 homes that have gotten annexed. And also, we need to do a better job of understanding mutual aid. And, you know, are we going into one city 100 times, but they're coming into the county 50 times? And if so, how does that equal out in the end? Lots of questions, sorry, just putting them out there. And Joelle, I know with your, you want to tag team on this one, or you're just going to let me just take all the blow for this?
I have received many, many different questions, more questions that I even know how to answer.
Exactly.
And even after you guys had your meeting yesterday, I got like 6 or 7 more questions. So you really need to work with the local municipalities on this. And at the end of the day, it has to be the resident that wins. It can't be that they're paying twice. So we just want to make sure that whatever we do, it's right for the residents. I know that a lot of these municipalities have future annexation plans. And that is something that I think the county wants to happen. So if we're going to do that, we got to let them also be able to manage their municipality. So my point here is that it has to be a win-win for the resident. Not for the county, not for the city, for the resident, that they're getting what they're paying for.
And jumping off all of that, and this has nothing to do with fire rescue, is we're having this discussion because of the broad sweep of annexation that Boynton wants to do because of the water utilities power of attorney, which is something that they quote Florida statute on allowing that. Can we find out what statute that is and revisit that ability? Because if this is something that was put in place 40 years ago for developers, and that home has sold 27 times to today, and that homeowner has no idea about it, regardless of the fact that it's probably buried really, really deep in their closing documents, we need to find out if there's a better way to come to a solution for that. Is there a way to protect those homeowners from, and Boynton is one example, Jupiter is another. Those water utility departments have that in their contracts that they can, in fact, incorporate those areas that are getting water from that local utility. So I'd like to go back and find out really how is that managed today, and that might actually quiet some annexation issues in the future. Commissioner Woodward.
Well, thank you. And since you brought it up, I received a number of the emails and some phone calls myself on this. And I think what I would appreciate is I received talking points and I received documents, and this bill, which I thought was a charter school bill, the 123, it's become very confusing. And as I receive the phone calls and the emails, I would like the ability to tell them there's going to be this, I guess, the meeting on November 13th. Is that something where the cities have a seat at the table along with fire rescue and whatever interested parties with the legislators who are going to be running this bill? Is that what's happening on the 13th?
So the fire union would present the local bill at November 13th, and there would be opportunity for public comment from the cities.
Okay, because I even got into a conversation pretty late last night where someone was asking me about, it says shall instead of may and all of this. And I'm like, it's not our bill. We're not writing this. That is the appropriate venue for those things to be hashed out. And they will have the opportunity for giving feedback to the representative. I guess there's a senator and a House rep running this. Is this correct?
So local bills are only run in the House, so you
Okay.
only need a House sponsor. It'd be
Okay.
Chair Snyder running in the House.
But that meeting is where they can go and get into the weeds on the shalls and the mays and all of this. But the conversation that I did have was that, coming from our side of it, we do make large investments into properties, into buildings. If we build a fire station, we have to staff that fire station. There's trucks that are purchased. It is a big investment. And if we do not have the ability to plan for the future, we're going to end up with our areas along the borderlands of unincorporated and incorporated that we're not going to invest in as much as we probably should because of the pending annexation that's always there. And I don't think that that's fair for the residents who just happen to live. They moved to Delray Beach and they're like, I live in Delray Beach. And it's like, well, you don't live in the city, you live in the unincorporated. People don't know the difference. And I would never want to get to the point where we, the county, are not investing in those areas. We'll invest out west because we know corporations not coming there for decades. We're going to build something there, but not really put the same money into the other areas, because it is about the residents and it's about the citizens there. And it's the taxpayers pay for these, no matter what. If we build it, if we buy a truck, if we staff these, the taxpayer is paying. And if that ends up shifting to another fire rescue, there needs to be some sort of a long phasing of this, or, there has to be an agreement in place, not just an annexation and we're going to build a different fire station across the street. I mean, that's still taxpayer money that's building that station that built the other station. So these are the types of considerations we have to make. And I would just implore to my cities to understand, when we're planning for these futures, I don't want to neglect people who happen to live in one of these gray areas where they may be annexed, they may not, so we don't invest where they live. And that's really what it boils down to for me. And so that was the conversation I left with. November 13th is like this is the date for them to hash out the wills, the shalls, the mays, the whatever. And that's with the House. It's not our bill, right? Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just on that same conversation, fire rescue is here. Have you asked? I think you asked to hear from fire rescue. Are we going to hear from them too, or no? I know we got a short amount of time. And the second thing about that is to piggyback off what Commissioner Woodward was saying in terms of the investment that the county would make in some of these fire stations, and then that going along with annexation. If we have facilities there, we just would like to know how that works. In addition, the local bill passes, it would go to the House, and there'll be a House sponsor. When it goes to the local bill hearing, unless they do it on the fly, which what we have done that before, where we've changed the language at the local bill hearing, but whatever passes at the local bill hearing would then move forward to be filed, and then it would go to the House, barring that it is heard in the House. If it's not heard in the House, it still doesn't pass. And the next step, if it is heard in the House, at some point it would come over to the Senate. And the Senate, although there's not a sponsor, there is a senator who, from this district, would see that bill, and they would all be approved unless that senator was to pull it and tell the Senate president, I don't want that to come to the Senate. So that's kind of how it would work. But I think the opportunity for this to be worked out would have to happen before the local bill hearing, because whatever passes at the local bill hearing would then move on to be filed in the House in Tallahassee. And that's all for me. I've seen, I want to thank y'all for putting this together. I'm interested to see, what our appropriations look like. And I've got some bill suggestions, but I know who to talk to about those ideas. If it's not too late. Is it too late for somebody to? Good, I need to call people today.
November 21st is the submission deadline for bills.
Administrator Abruzzo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say for the board, our Palm Beach County firefighters and paramedics, the men and women, our first responders, as well as the overlapping fire rescue organization for the state, is held in extremely high regard in Tallahassee. They, my time, and I believe the history since, as a former and always senators know, Tallahassee, from the governor down to leadership, has them in the highest standing and highest regards, and looks after those who put their lives on the line. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I think the major concern here is that, as we've all said, our residents get the best service they possibly can get. And I look forward to actually talking to you all individually so that we can hash out and have some answers to some of my questions. And because I think we could probably be here another hour, but I think everybody's hungry. So why don't we take a break and return at 1:15? At that point in time, we will take up the attorney interviews. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can we get a motion to approve the state legislative agenda?
Motion to receive and file.
Yeah,
I have a motion from Commissioner Weiss, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor, all opposed. See that motion carries 6-0. Thank you.